Good morning, everybody. Today I'm here to talk to you about the new Epic Destiny Machrotech. I'm going to give you the highs and lows and what it is and everything we know about it. First, it's an Epic Destiny, so this is Epic only. So if you're somebody who doesn't play in Epics, you'll be excited about this when you get there, but obviously this isn't going to affect you. And then also, we don't know how you're going to be able to acquire this. We don't know if this is going to be free. We don't know if you're going to have to pay for this. We don't know if you can unlock it in game. If you do have to pay for it, we don't know any of that information. All we know is this is what it is. So what is it? Well, first thing, because it's a new Epic Destiny, this will be the 13th one. Just by unlocking it, by talking to the guy in the town, you're going to get one extra Epic Destiny point no matter what. So regardless, this is going to be a good upgrade for your character, whether you want to use it or not. But let's break down what the Machrotech is. This is a tree that focuses on lightning, sonic, and repair, as well as melee and range power. It's a very, very, very much a hybrid tree, and it doesn't really excel at anything, which is much like the Artificer. Artificer is, we've talked about this before, one of the worst classes in the game. Not because it's bad, it's not bad at all, but it just isn't the best at anything. Artificer is not the best range DPS, it's not the best melee DPS, it's not the best tank, it's not the best spellcaster, but it kind of does a little bit of everything. And that's where Machrotech really fits in. So, for the cores, every core that you take gives you spell DCs, melee power, range power, hit points, and spell power. Usually you don't get all of those things. Like Magus the Eclipse here gives, some spell power and some mana, or Draconic Incarnation, same thing, spell power and mana. This is like everything all in one. So it is a very valuable core trait here, and you get them for each core. Additionally, as you go up, you get Fortification, which is very, very nice, and more healing amp. Plus, it's got Rune Arm bonuses. Each of the cores is very Artificer heavy, so if you're not an Artificer, the cores aren't as valuable. This one makes it so your Rune Arms get all your meta magic feats. So, if you have to have the feats, but it's basically an extra 300 spell power for your Rune Arm, which is pretty cool. You've got Armored Augmentation, which makes your Blade of Armor, a level 1 Artificer spell, now do 200 points of damage per caster level, which basically means it goes up to 520, which is better than I think it's 50 that it normally does. And then finally, we have the Armored Augmentation, which makes your Rune Arm shots now factor in your Epic and Legendary Knowledge feats. So overall, not the greatest if you're not an Artificer, but the passes are still okay. The Fortification, and remember, each point you put in here is still melee power, hit point, spell power. So each of these cores is still good on their own right. You just might not get the extra effects. However, this tree has a lot of really good stuff at the bottom. Unfortunately, there's no real pictures here, so it's going to be hard to follow along. But we got Blast Shields here. So that's this ability, which makes it so that you get +2 reflex saves, and on a rank 3, you no longer fail reflex saves on a 1. Very, very cool. Gotta love that. Then we got Tinker Tailoring, which gives you faster Rune Arm charging and use Magic Device. We got Solid Footing for physical resistance rating and armor class. And then you have Sprockets, which gives you extra repair amplification and a bonus for using the Construct Exemplar feat. Now, the Construct Exemplar feat is not something that you take very often on a caster, but any type of Warforged melee, so we're talking Warforged Barbarians, Fighters, Rogues, Paladins, Rangers, any of these characters, there's nothing really to take at 24. Melee level 24 is a dead level for most characters. There's no real good feats for that area. And so the benefit with this is if you're a Warforged, you can just take the Construct Exemplar, and then you're pretty happy with this. Moving on to the actual Epic Strike, every tree gets an Epic Strike. So like Dragon Breath here, or there's like the Moonbeams that are over here. This character gets burst spells. They're centered, or explosions that are centered directly on you. So you have Galvanic Blast, which is a lightning burst on you. Mending Burst, which is a repair burst on you. So it heals nearby Warforged and other repairable allies. And then Sonic Boom, which is a sonic burst on you. These numbers are incorrect. They're actually going to be dealing the same damage as Dragon Breath, which is good because they do need to increase the damage on that effect. And so if I kind of like pull this up here, you can see, I'll just accept that and throw that onto my track. So the actual burst, this character goes, and it's like an explosion centered entirely on you. Then, as we move up into the tree, we've got Fluidity, no more Arcane Spell Failure. This might not seem like it's that important because there are other ways to avoid Arcane Spell Failure, but Machrotech makes a really good splash tree. Consider how many characters, like you're playing as, like, say, a wizard, as an example. You can get no-fail reflex saves on a 1 because you can get your intelligence reflex saves, and then you can also get, no Arcane Spell Failure if you didn't put any points in the Eldritch Knight tree, and so you multiclassed a bit, so you can be, like, in light or medium armor and not worry about it. So there's some flexibility here. Then we have Radiant Prison. This is kind of a cool ability. It basically makes it so a monster that you're attacking for 8 seconds takes borderline no damage, but they also can't do anything. However, they can still be instant killed. So if you're in the lower difficulties, that means you can just throw it out and stop any monster you want. In the higher difficulties, this is great for Vengeance Reapers because it prevents them from doing anything, and they also can't really die, so they don't explode. So you can hit this on the Vengeance Reaper in the pack, everyone uses all their AoE, and then you kill the Vengeance afterwards, which is where you're going to see this most often. I don't see this being used all the time, but that is the best case scenario I can think of. And then we have Rune Arm use. Now, this is one of the coolest parts of the tree, being able to use Rune Arms on any character that you want. So obviously, my character right now is an Artificer, and I get Rune Arm use, so I can just kind of blast out my Rune Arm here and shoot it into space. However, if you happen to not be an Artificer, you can't normally use Rune Arms. This allows you to, which means you can get all the benefits of Rune Arms, which are, remember, there are entire item slots. If you're playing as a single weapon fighter, you can use Rune Arms. If you, let's just say you're playing single weapon fighter paladin, by getting access to Rune Arms, you get access to a whole extra weapon effect. Sovereign Lightning Strike, which has like extra damage here. We get the Rune Arm Imbue, which deals damage whenever you attack people. Transform Kinetic Energy, so you get spell points when you get hit. Or if we move into Isle of Dread, you can craft your own Rune Arms, and the craftable Rune Arms are super strong, with a bunch of really incredible effects. So this, getting a Rune Arm on every single weapon fighter, every crossbow character that doesn't happen to include Artificer, is a huge boon. Heck, you can even have like a single weapon fighter barbarian and still have Rune Arms. So there's a lot of possibility here, a lot of power. However, if you already have Rune Arm use, this gives you +1 stable charge tier. Stable charge tier is basically like, as you can see, my Rune Arm is charging up. Eventually, if I start moving, my character will lose charge, and the stable charge tier I'm at 3. It would bring me up to stable charge tier 4, so I could actually stay stable at 4 while moving, and it wouldn't drain past that, which is nice. Then we have Hammer Time, which is the next ability. This is Lightning Hammer and Thunder Hammer. It's basically just Chaos Hammer that deals lightning and sonic damage. These abilities are amazing. The damage might not look that great, but it's basically like an extra chain lightning. And being able to have an extra chain lightning is super duper good, because let's just say you're playing as like a sorcerer. You can go Dragon Breath into Chain Lightning, into Ball Lightning, into Thunder Hammer, back into Chain Lightning, into Ball Lightning. So that rotation of spells means that you basically have like 5 AoE spells now that you can roll through, just that extra little bit of filling the gap. Same thing with Bards. Thunder Hammer is actually the highest damage sonic spell in DDO. So this is being added, and it's not an Epic Strike, so you can just take it, which is kind of cool. Then we have the Mantle Force Field Generator. This is basically pairing off of the Unyielding Sentinel Mantle. So the Unyielding Sentinel Mantle is you get healing amplification as well as elemental absorptions. This is repair amplification instead of healing amp, and physical absorptions. Force, piercing, bludgeoning, slashing, and then electric, sonic, and rust, which is pretty cool. And it also increases in power if you're wearing a Rune Arm, which of course this character is, and you can be in here, but you don't necessarily have to. As we move up in the tree, the force field, or the thing, gets an upgrade, so it gets physical magical resistance rating. However, you also get more of it if you happen to be wearing a Rune Arm. Then you get the electric, sonic, rust, repair, and universal spell power, which gives you spell resistance if you're wearing a Rune Armor as well whenever you fire it. This doesn't work on the preview, and it's also kind of bad. Because I was going to ask if it stacks, but it currently doesn't do anything, so it's not really a great recommendation here. And then the top tier, you get extra hit points, and then you get extra hit points if you're wearing a Rune Armor as well. Now, obviously, this is not quite as strong defensively as the Unyielding Sentinel Mantle, which gives you stuff like increasing your absorption or the extra hit points just like all the time. You don't have to wear a Rune Arm, but this is still pretty good in the short term as something that'll help improve your character. Are you going to use this all the time? Probably not. This is probably mostly useful for hardcore more than anything else, because if you're not playing on hardcore, you don't need the extra defense. You just want to blow people up. So you're going to be picking up the Draconic Incarnation Mantle or something else. So again, this is going to really depend. Then moving up to the tier 3, we got Spell Focus. You can pick extra spell DCs, so you can kind of max out your spell DCs. We got the different drives. This is actually something I think is really cool in the tree. They have the Strike Drive, the Technique Drive, and the Boost Drive, and they all kind of feed together, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So in the Technique Drive, you can either get spell cost reduction, more threat generated, or double strike and double shot. This fits all the archetypes you'd want your Artificer to fit into, whether you're a Renegade Mastermaker and you need aggro, whether you're a Battle Engineer and you want to have the extra damage going through, the extra physical damage, or you want more mana conservation because you're an Arcano Technician. All of that is very good, and again, very versatile for any character that you want to play. Easy example for something like this, because this is here in the tier 3, it means that for one of my characters, my Poison Paladin Fun Tank, that many of you guys have played and told me you've enjoyed it a lot, you can now get 450% extra threat out of this tree, so you can pick up threat out of this tree and threat out of the Unyielding Sentinel tree right here, meaning your character is up at 900% threat, so you'll never lose aggro on anything, which is very cool. Then we have the Stormcore, which is Runearm DCs, which is always good. Runearm scale off of Evocation, but then Runearm DCs go on top of that, and you will need that, especially if you're not a pure Artificer, because Runearm DCs scale off of Artificer level. And then we have the Strike Drive. These are upgrades to your actual Mantle effect. So we have Blast Drive, which makes this your not Mantle, sorry, your Epic Strike. Makes it your Epic Strike stuns. Dissonance Drive makes it your Epic Strike confuses, and then Ruin Drive makes it your Epic Drive or your Epic Strike rusts. Doesn't matter which one you use, this will affect it. So if you use the Lightning one, then the Lightning one will stun or confuse or will rust. If you use the Repair one will stun, which means you can use the Repair. It heals you and your friends and stuns nearby enemies, which is very, very cool. However, they are meant to be paired a little bit where you get an extra bonus for using it with the right one. So if you use the Lightning with the Blast Drive, you get extra movement speed. If you use the Sonic with the Dissonance Drive, it weakens monsters by lowering their defense. And if you use the Repair with the Ruin Drive, then makes your spells cost less. So you don't have to pair it up, but you get a bonus for pairing it up if you think that is valuable for you. Then we go up to tier 4, Spell Power, pretty straightforward. Imbue Dice, this is great because it just adds more Imbue Dice. It is pretty high up in the tree, and if you're not like, it's very rare, you're going to see a lot of pure melees going up here to tier 5 in the Machrotech, at least not until we know what Maximum Overdrive is going to do yet. So it's kind of expensive, but also remember, you've got Imbue Dice here in tier 3 in Draconic Incarnation. You've got Imbue Dice in Primal Avatar right here, also in tier 3 as part of the Mantle. You got a little bit of Imbue Dice in Legendary Dreadnought in Esoteric Touch. You got a little bit of Imbue Dice in Divine Crusader coming from Crusade. And so at the end of the day, this might be expensive and might be up here, but that's for right now. When we're level 34, 36, 38, 40, we're probably going to end with around 120-ish Epic Destiny points. You're going to be able to spend a lot of points in a lot of trees, and I would not stress about spending, worrying about getting access to this. So right now, it's not the greatest placement, but in the future, it's going to be very, very good. Then we got the Boost Drive. So the Boost Drive increases your Rune Arm stats. You either get increased or added Sonic damage on your Rune Arm or added Lightning damage on your Rune Arm. I thought this wasn't very good at first until I realized that it doesn't scale with your Rune Arm charge. So using it with the full charge is bad because look how long it takes to charge up and get that full damage added on. It's not even comparable to the amount of damage that you do. But it turns out the trick is you just press it as fast as you can, constantly pulsing it out, and you get the full damage of this every time. And it's actually quite good. It's actually way better than I thought. And it's like kind of busted if you just do this. So they're probably going to change that, just so you know. Then we have the Metamagic cost reduction. You just reduce the cost of the Metamagics, not a big deal. And then we move up to the tier 5, the big hitters. Why are you taking this tree? Well, it's a spellcaster tree, so it gets +1 to all spell DCs just up here. It's also a weapon using tree, so it gets +1 crit multi on 19 or 20 while using a Rune Arm, just like the melee trees, which leaves us only with 3 more points. This one's part of the Mantle, so if you don't want the Mantle, you're not going to take this. So now we have the last 2 pieces, Armor Legends and Maximum Overdrive. Armor Legends is where the drives come in. First, it makes your Epic Mage Armor give you extra armor class, and then it gives you a bonus based on the drives that you have installed. So, Epic Mage Armor is a pretty bad feat. It gives you 20 armor class, but the problem is it doesn't stack with existing items. So for example, because this gives me 26 armor class, Epic Mage Armor doesn't do anything because it only gives me 20, and this is 26, so it's higher than that. However, with this change, it makes it so you get actual armor class from your Epic Mage Armor. So my armor class is 99. I hit Epic Mage Armor, and my armor class goes up to... I didn't take it. 1 second. Please hold for technical difficulties. Give me a drive, please. Give me another drive. Give me a drive. There we go. Here we go. And then it goes up to 158. Because I get a huge amount of armor class from actually using the ability, which is cool. A lot of people write off and discount armor class. I cannot stress enough how big of a deal it is to go from like 90 to 140. You will get missed way more often. There are, especially in the lower ranges, you can make huge strides in keeping yourself alive through armor class. In raid scenarios, armor class is not as good. Monsters tend to always hit in raids, but in any type of Reaper content like Reaper 10 or just regular questing, armor class is great, and so that's a huge boon. Now you have to take Epic Mage Armor. A lot of characters can usually forego one of their epic feats, but then you also get the drive effect. So you can get, like here, speed drive, so you get action boost bonus to attack speed. The efficiency drive, you get action boost bonus to movement speed. So because what did I take? Efficiency drive, I get increased movement speed. Because I took the blast drive, I get action boost bonus to saves. And because I took the echo drive, I also get bonus to imbue dice. So depending on the drives that you take, it's going to give you additional stats. Now these stats are low, so I think that they kind of need to like either amp them up or do something. And I also think they should probably add a few more drives to kind of customize some of your play a little bit more. But I do think that they've done a fairly good job. And I actually think this is one of the coolest abilities we've gotten in a tree because it's very customizable and feels very Artificer. And then last but not least, we have the Maximum Overdrive. This is the epic moment where they said they have a few ideas for. If I had to guess what the idea for, it would probably be the idea that people were posting on the forums themselves, which is basically make it so your rune arms charge super fast and you blast their rune arms and they do lots of damage. But yeah, so they're currently looking for extra ideas if you guys have them. So if you have ideas for what Maximum Overdrive is supposed to do, I'll put a link in the description where you can go ahead and click the you can put in your ideas on the forums and you can leave them there. If you leave them below my YouTube video, I will read them, which is cool, but the developers won't. So feel free to post your ideas for what this should do, but they're not gonna read it. So you should put it in the forums. There's been a lot of really cool ideas that have been put in there, a lot of really interesting things. And so I think hopefully it'll shake out. Hopefully it will be interesting at the end of the day. My personal idea for Maximum Overdrive, which I actually also have yet to post on the forums as of right now, but I will by the time this video goes live, is that when you press this button, your character, every time you cast a spell as well as make an attack, your character gets a stack of heat. And so you get a bunch of, you get like faster attack speed, so it gives you like an action boost haste. It gives you increased casting speed, so you cast like a sorcerer and you have shorter cooldowns for the duration. So let's say it's like 20 or 30 seconds or whatever it is. And then every time you attack or cast a spell, you get a stack of heat. And the heat stacks from having this extra bonus basically causes it so that for every stack of heat that you have, you gain more melee power, you gain more spell power. But on the other side of that, you also have increased mana costs. So your spell point costs go up. And on top of that, you like take damage whenever you attack somebody. And the more stacks you have, the worse that gets. So eventually, you get like 100 extra spell power, but your spells cost like 30% more. So you're casting faster, but you're spending more mana on them and other stuff. I don't know. I thought that'd be kind of an interesting idea that like your character could like starts burning out, where you get more damage, but it's way more costly, and you like rip through your mana bar and everything. I thought that'd be a cool idea. But who knows? Maybe they'll go with that. Maybe they won't. So post your ideas out there. So the question is, who is Machrotech good for? Right now, it's hard to say who should use like the tier 5 because obviously it's missing an epic moment and a lot of the stuff in here wasn't working properly, so it's hard to test. You know, Armor Legends doesn't work at all. The drives, like I said, some of the drives don't work. So it's kind of been hard to really evaluate. But any Artificer will do well in Machrotech just as like kind of their dominant tree. And I think Machrotech is something that, unless there's some major changes, probably not going to be the dominant tree for the majority of the player base on the regular servers, because it just doesn't add like the same level of damage. Right now, the DDO metagame is like pure damage or pure tank or pure caster, like DCs and stuff. So there's very little hybridization, and this is very much a hybrid tree, so I don't expect a lot of people to be jumping into this. But for Hardcore League, this mantle is amazing. Force Field Generator is a absolutely fantastic mantle to use for defensive purposes. So you're definitely going to get a lot of love. The epic strikes, especially some of the healing repair strike, the fact that you can play as like a melee character, say you're playing as like a Tempest Ranger, and you're rolling around with the Fate Singer Epic Strike. You guys have all tried the Fate Singer Sword Sings. It's super powerful. It's unbelievably good. It's got a 4-second cooldown. You could also, if you're playing as a Warforged, grab the Repair Blast that's here, and then grab the Stun as well. So you're fighting people, you're meleeing, everything is cool, but now if you need to fall back, you can just hit out the Repair Blast, heals you to full, and stuns nearby enemies, so you can keep wailing on people. Again, there's a lot of flexibility there. I think every single Lightning caster in DDO will take Lightning Hammer, and every single Sonic caster will take Thunder Hammer. These abilities are fantastic, and they do tons of damage, so just a great addition there. And it's an amazing splash tree. I think that Machrotech will probably fit as a third tree for a lot of characters more often than a first tree, and it's super good, especially like these low-hanging fruit. The no-fail reflex saves on a 1, the extra repair amplification, physical resistance rating, this even, not so much the UMD, but like the spell cost reduction. There's a lot of really good stuff in the like low in the tree, and as far as I could tell, I couldn't even find a build that had struggled to get up the tree. There's always good stuff everywhere you want to go. If anything, there's kind of too many things you want to take in this tree, which I would say is probably an issue, but that's the nature of being a hybrid character, It's just always going to be too many things that you want to take. So that's my take on Machrotech. Is it perfect? No. It's a lot of bugs. It doesn't really work a lot. You can kill people if you want. There's a fun bug where if you have the rust drive or whatever it's called, it causes or ruin drive, and you use the repairing ability, it causes the rust damage to apply to allies, and it kills people in the test dojo, so that's cool. But overall, it was fun to play around with, but with a lot of bugs, it was hard to really fully evaluate. I would say that when the bugs are fixed, because this is preview 2, there's probably going to be 3 or so previews. When the bugs are fixed, this will be much easier to evaluate. But overall, as I said, I think this is going to land somewhere in the kind of used category. I'm going to put it probably in terms of representation. It's probably going to be represented as much as Fatesinger, where you're going to see it in a lot of different builds as a third tree, where people are taking it for harmonic resonance, people are taking it for the epic strikes, or the spell construction is going to be a similar thing with Machrotech. People are going in for the rune arm use, other things, because that's super powerful. So I think you're going to see a lot as a third tree, and I think it's going to be more popular in tier 5 than probably Shadow, maybe Shadow Dancer, and maybe Magus the Eclipse, which are 2 of the least used trees as of right now. They both get used, but I think Magus the Eclipse is definitely the odd one out. This one sees the least amount of play, and I think Machrotech will see more play than Magus the Eclipse. But we'll see. And there's more to note. I'm not saying Magus the Eclipse is bad. Time Stop is insane. So, I just think that's probably where it's going to line up. But again, we're going to have to wait and see. But that's all I have for you today, so thank you for watching. If you like what you saw and you like this new camera angle, this is the new camera angle, by the way. Ooh, how amazing is that? We will be back with some more new interesting things going on. And hopefully when there's another preview, we can give a more in-depth detail about what the Machrotech is and what goes better with it. But again, a lot of things just literally don't work at all, especially a lot of these electrical blasts. A lot of the numbers are incorrect, so the damage is not nearly as good. This one doesn't have a save, and I can't use metamagics on it. Again, there's a lot of spells that aren't really working. So we'll see that in the next preview. So thank you for watching. Have a great time, and eat your vegetables and drink some coffee. Bye-bye.